Who knew what and when? A few days after the feds kicked out a Chinese diplomat for targeting Michael Chong and his family, the 2021 CSIS intelligence that included that information is the subject of a lot of scrutiny. New reporting from Global News shows all three people who served the Prime Minister as national security and intelligence advisors in 2021, Vincent Rigby, David Morrison, and Mike McDonald, all say they don't recall receiving the briefing about MP Chong. But Chong himself says Jody Thomas, the Prime Minister's current national security advisor, told him an intelligence assessment had been sent to the Privy Council office in the summer of 2021. That's the bureaucratic arm of the PMO. The Prime Minister hasn't directly addressed questions about who in the security apparatus knew and why or why not they did or didn't, but he does insist things will change going forward.
What I have done over the past week is ensure that any threat, no matter how low the threshold, no matter how unsavory or unreliable the source, should be elevated if it talks about an MP and their families. Going forward, that will be the story.
And jumping off that, CTV has just learned that Canada's spy agency, CSIS, has reached out to NDP MP Jenny Kwan. Here's what she had to say.
Just yesterday, I was contacted by CSIS, and wherein they want to provide a more in-depth kind of meeting with me.
So while all that is happening, members of Parliament have also unanimously agreed that what's known as the Procedure and House Affairs Committee should study the alleged intimidation campaign against Michael Chong and his family. Former Conservative MP Kenny Chiu testified to that same committee this week about what he calls a disinformation campaign that cost him his seat in the last federal election. That's how he characterizes it. He's with us now to talk a bit more about that. Hi, Mr. Chiu, good to see you. Thank you for making the time.
Hello, Vassy. Thanks for having me.
I know we've spoken before about this, but that was kind of at the outset of all the allegations of foreign interference. So just to refresh Canadians' memories, people who are watching tonight, what do you allege happened to you in the last election?
Well, if I said in our previous chat before, elections winning or losing, it's a very complex matter. I'm not saying that my loss is solely because of the foreign interference that I've experienced, but I did observe that there has been orchestrated there has been campaigns that are coming from unknown sources, probably the intelligence that I've gathered, it's from the People's Republic of China that were targeting me as because of me being a vocal distractor of the PRC policy in Canada and as well as overseas. The subsequent reports that we have heard on Canadian media as being Global News or Globe and Mail have actually confirmed that my suspicion were actually substantiated.
And can you detail for people watching what form that disinformation campaign, as you call it, or the efforts on the part of those actors, like what in layman's terms, what happened?
So there is a sizable constituents in areas around Canada that relies on ethnic media, their own language media, and they trust and they read and consume media through those channels exclusively. And all of a sudden, from those media that are controlled, many of them controlled by the PRC, by the CCP Beijing regime, you start seeing disinformation or complete misinformation, mischaracterizing, for example, the former leader of the Conservative, Aaron O'Toole, as anti-Chinese, not just anti-China. And myself being an ethnic Chinese, of being a traitor, that whatever I'm proposing as a private member bill in establishing the registry for foreign interference will render all of the Chinese Canadians in jeopardy. And these are the kind of disinformation that are spread. If you were one of the member of the community, you rely solely on those information, and you are very concerned after having just gone through the pandemic, and there has been more than fair share of anti-Asian racism. Would you not be concerned? Would you still vote for this MP who's proposing something that could potentially jeopardizing you yourself, your family, and your descendants in Canada?
So let me ask you, Mr. Chiu, because we've now been listening to reports and all the reaction that's ensued involving MP Michael Chong. your former colleague. And in particular, we just aired a clip there from Jenny Kwan, who says CSIS has now called her because the Prime Minister says now CSIS is going to have to talk directly to MPs who were in any way targeted. Has CSIS reached out to you? What has your involvement been? Has anyone really talked to you about the prospect of additional conversations based on your concerns?
Well, by my count, Vassy, before the election, I actually have 3 encounters with CSIS staff. They have been operating under secrecy, and they will not let me know the exact purpose of the discussions they have with me. They only ask me questions and ask for information and providing answers to them. The 4th time that I met with them was during the election time, since I have made contact with them previously. When I start experiencing something extremely unusual with indication that it's coming from a foreign government, I immediately contacting them. And instead of over the phone, they insisted on meeting me at my campaign office and then demanding that I print out all the evidence on paper, and then they will just take it away. And that was the last time I heard from them, and there has never been any follow-up since.
How did those encounters leave you feeling? And if you were to identify a gap, because everyone is very much focused now on some of the gaps that seem pretty evident, if you were to identify, your thoughts on that, what are they?
I think as a Canadian of a visible minority in Canada, I'm fully aware of how disinformation and misinformation can be used to manipulate and exploit our community. I would expect, as a member of parliament, the country will have provided me the adequate protection from these attacks, from this disinformation in my community. But unfortunately, for both the community as well as for myself, I got to tell you honestly, I feel a sense of nakedness, that we are out in the open, that we are subject to these exploitation and then manipulation. And the government of Canada has not been providing us any support per se. As you can actually read from the CEIPP report, they mentioned that they detected things that are happening in my riding during my campaign. Unfortunately, the threshold, as they call it, it's too low. And I don't know what threshold standard they have set up, but unfortunately, none of the CEIPP site or NCCOP or NCIRA, none of these organizations that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he set up to protect us have made any contact with me. And during the election, I feel vulnerable, exposed, and all fighting it by myself.
Okay, Mr. Chiu, I have to leave it there. I'm out of time. I do appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.